Well, ladies and gentlemen, I'm in my garage because I'm about to scream my head off. But the Pittsburgh Steelers, it wasn't the best game in the world. It was a pretty ugly game. But you know what? Just like so many other games this year that they shouldn't have won, they pulled through. Because let me tell you, talent-wise, the Baltimore Ravens are a much better team. The Cleveland Browns are a much better team. The Buffalo Bills, Tennessee Titans, all of them are much better teams. But who came out? It was the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Steelers are going to the playoffs, 9-7-1. I thought for sure, but I knew it was very unlikely that this would happen. But I woke up today, I looked, and I saw that Carson Wentz was the starting quarterback of the Indianapolis Colts. And that right there showed me he choked under pressure. And what did he do? He choked just like the Falcons, 28-3, all over again. Carson Wentz, your team is done. And it's honestly sad because your team is better than the Steelers. They're better. They could do more damage in the playoffs most likely. But you know what? You went to Duval, a team in a city that you have not been able to beat in Jacksonville since 2014, and you didn't get the job done. Jonathan Taylor was held. This defense for the Jaguars went out, and they did what they had to do. They were Pittsburgh Steelers today. Everyone, round of applause for this team. But second, the Jacksonville Jaguars didn't just beat them. They utterly destroyed them, 26-11. 8 points coming in garbage time by the Colts. The Colts did nothing. And best for all for the Jaguars, they still have the first overall pick because the Lions also won. What a crazy week it is in the NFL. But the Pittsburgh Steelers, whenever it looked gone and lost, whenever Ben looked like he was washed, because at certain times he is, even though I still think he's still a serviceable game manager, you know what he did? This was poetry in motion. Not only did he go and win the game against the Browns, he went into M&T Bank Stadium, the same field that he threw his first NFL pass on. He went down the field, and despite all the penalties, despite the terrible running game today, despite the offensive line being absolute dog crap, Ben Roethlisberger on so many 3rd and longs, on a 4th and 8, he goes down the field, and you know what he does? He brings his team down. How many times do I have to say this? You tell me. The Steelers, they are not a bad team, but I will admit that there are teams that aren't in the playoffs that are better than them. But how many times have you seen Baker Mayfield do that? How many times have you seen Lamar Jackson do that? How many times? Not as much as Big Ben, even this year. And you call him washed? You just got swept by the Pittsburgh Steelers, one of the worst teams that Ben has had in the Ben Roethlisberger era. The Ravens, the Browns were swept. The Bengals, that is the type of team that the Steelers truly are. Because I know talent-wise, and I know with the way their offensive line is set up, that they are just a mediocre team. And I have been harsh on Mike Tomlin, and sometimes I think it's well-deserved. But let me tell you something. He has never had a losing season. Ben Roethlisberger has never had a losing season. And neither will he for the rest of his career. Because all the media, everyone in the media thought, oh, there's no way the Jaguars can beat the Colts. This is the NFL. Anything can happen. You saw the Lions beat the Cardinals, for God's sake. So I understand you have to go into this game thinking that's going to be Ben's last in order to appreciate his greatness. But let me tell you something. This is Ben Roethlisberger. There's just one thing I don't know about this man. I knew as soon as he got that ball in overtime, he was going to go down and lead his team to victory. And that's exactly what he did. He's done it his whole career. He's doing it now. 18 years into it. He owns these teams. I don't care what people tell me. Respect to the Bengals for winning the division. It was well-deserved. But Ben Roethlisberger, Mike Tomlin, even when the odds are against them, even when they're just a mediocre team, they find ways to go to the postseason. And that's what I love about this team. It doesn't matter who they play. They're always there to show up. It doesn't matter how the game's going. They're always there to show up. And the Pittsburgh Steelers got it done today. I don't care if they go to the playoffs and lose. We're seeing Ben one last time. I don't care how Ben plays. The fact that he got us and his team and himself to have another game is absolutely remarkable. This is the worst Steelers team I think I've ever seen, aside from the 2019 team, but you could say it would have been better if Ben played. So just on the pure roster, you could say this team was the worst. And let me tell you something. They're still in the postseason. How many times have all these franchises around the Steelers made it? The Browns made it last year. Yes, they beat us. The Ravens are pretty consistently making it. The Bengals are probably going to start to go on streaks where they make it. But the Steelers are always there. It doesn't matter if they have washed Big Ben. It doesn't matter if they have a crappy offensive line. It doesn't matter where they're playing. It doesn't matter who they're playing. They always have a chance to win. And yes, some games this year they've looked like crap. And that's because, to be honest, sometimes they are crap. Like I said, this team is only mediocre. But you guys counted them out on ESPN. You counted them out when they were 1-3. You said, bench Ben, see what Haskins could do. Could Dwayne Haskins do this? Do you really think Dwayne Haskins could do this? Mason Rudolph did what he had to do in overtime, but he didn't do things in regulation for he could even beat the Lions, let alone the teams that Ben Roethlisberger's beat as a 39-year-old. That's what I like to see. I've watched this man play my whole entire life, and I get to see him play one more time. Because no matter how the offensive line plays, no matter who's not in the game for parts of it, like Najee Harris and Deontay Johnson, thank goodness they're better. No matter if they're dropping balls, if they're getting false starts, if the defense is sucking on the run game a little bit, they show up when they have to. They show up when they need to, and they show up for Ben Roethlisberger. Ben Roethlisberger is going to the postseason, and that's exactly where he deserves. You tell me. He should retire. This is his last year, and I think it is for the best. But you tell me, don't you ever disrespect this man in terms of what he could do on the football field. Outside of it, you can think what you want. But on terms of the football field, you need to appreciate this man's greatness. Because this man plays with so much heart. This man has donated his life and his body for almost half of his life for this organization. And he's taken one of the worst teams he's ever played with to the postseason. Ben Roethlisberger is a Hall of Famer. Ben Roethlisberger should not have been benched. Ben Roethlisberger took a team that could have gone 4-13 to the playoffs. Ben Roethlisberger's playing the worst he's played in his career, but he's still here. He's going to be playing next weekend. And I know the Chargers and Raiders game hasn't happened. It's not going to end in a tie. I can promise you that. I don't even care who wins that game. We eliminated the Ravens from the postseason. We swept them. The Browns, we would have eliminated them, but they were already eliminated. We swept them. All of these teams that Ben Roethlisberger has consistently beat, aside from the Cincinnati Bengals, was shown again in Ben's last year why he owns them. He owns them. Nothing short. And I understand that we could, if we were 4-13, we'd have a top draft pick. But let me tell you, the Steelers do not rebuild. They haven't rebuilt since the 80s and early 90s. They're not going to rebuild with the pieces that they have. I wouldn't be shocked if they go out and get a veteran quarterback, even if it's not Aaron Rodgers or someone like Russell Wilson or anyone like that. Even if it's just Jimmy Garoppolo. But let me tell you something. They're not going to get a quarterback and expect for him to just absolutely suck and then go 4-13 for the purpose of future seasons. They play for this season. And like I said, do I think the Steelers are winning the Super Bowl? It'd be awesome. It'd be poetic. No, but just based off of what Ben Roethlisberger has around him, this is the absolute best ending you could ever ask for out of this man. He looks like dog crap sometimes this year. That's to be expected. He's 39. But this season, he has one of the most, if not the most, game-winning drives against teams that are much better than him on paper and are much better than him in terms of what's happening on the field. This team, I'm sorry to the casual NFL fan, because this team is boring to watch. This team is boring to watch, aside from the end of the third and early fourth quarter. And yes, this team does sometimes get breaks, but let me tell you something. I'm sorry that we're playing. I know a team like the Colts would be more entertaining, or even the Ravens, because on paper, they have the better team. But what doesn't matter, because we have better coaching. We come through when we need it. We stay in the game. And even though it feels like the same thing every single week, we could be down 29-0. We could be up 29-0. It doesn't matter. The game is never over. I wish we would have won games against the Chargers. I wish we would have won the game against the Vikings. I wish they wouldn't inject us with false hope. But this playoff run, for me, is not for a Super Bowl. I don't care if the Steelers get blown out. It would suck. But just the fact that Ben Roethlisberger's there, even if he doesn't have a great game in the playoffs, I do not think he should be remembered for that playoff game. But the fact that he got this team there in the AFC North, one of the most competitive divisions in football, he plays second. He was 1-3. Everyone said, the Steelers suck, the Steelers suck. And like I said, I don't think they're that great. They're mediocre. But guess what? Where are all those Browns fans now? Where are all those Ravens fans now? I guess they flew away because they're not here anymore. They're sitting at home when a 39-year-old quarterback who's playing the worst he's done in his career is in the postseason. And I love it. I love it so much. I don't care if they win. I don't care if they lose. Obviously, I prefer they win. And if they lose, I prefer it's not embarrassing. But you know what? The fact that the Steelers are even playing postseason football this year is something to appreciate. Because who knows? They could be a type of team. Like I said at the beginning of the year, I said the Steelers are either going to barely make it or barely miss it. I don't care about their record. And that is exactly what happened. But they barely made it. And that's the best possible outcome. Because let's be honest, you're either going to barely miss, not go to the playoffs and have a mediocre draft pick, or you can go to the playoffs and have a mediocre draft pick. I'd much rather choose the second option, even if this team gets blown out. And don't get me wrong, I'm not sitting here bragging. I'm not sitting here saying that the Steelers are going to the Super Bowl, because they're not. If they do, imagine how poetic it could be. But these 2 weeks, when everyone counted Ben out, when everyone said he should be benched, when everyone looked at Ben Roethlisberger and said this is probably your last career game, which makes sense, but the media almost assumed that the Jacksonville Jaguars were going to get slapped by the Indianapolis Colts. You don't think like that. Sure, the Colts are favored. They should have been. They're the better team, but the better team doesn't always win. And I'm pretty sure that the Buffalo Bills, the Cleveland Browns, the Baltimore Ravens, the Tennessee Titans, they can all testify to that because of the Pittsburgh Steelers and Ben Roethlisberger. We're going to the postseason. This game was not pretty, like I said. It was filled with some mistakes. Johnson had some dropalitis. You thought he was on a slipping slide every now and then because he's slipping everywhere. You know, Najee Harris got hurt. He was good. Deontay Johnson got hurt. He's good. Thank goodness for that. But let me tell you something. It didn't matter. Cortland Sutton stepped up when we needed him to. Everybody on the defense stepped up when we needed it the most. Sure, their run game with Latavius Murray was really, really good for a couple of plays. But when it mattered the most, who got the stop? When it mattered the most, who gave a ball to a Hall of Famer that, yes, he's not that great anymore, but he's so disrespected, and I'm tired of it. And I want everyone who said that Ben Roethlisberger should be benched. I want everyone who said the Steelers suck, and they are a fan of the Cleveland Browns or Baltimore Ravens. I want every single one of them to just sit there and appreciate what Ben Roethlisberger has done. Our team is worse than the Ravens. Our team is worse than the Browns in terms of the players on the field, in terms of, you know, just if you look at the paper, who would you rather have as your team? But it doesn't matter. That's not how the NFL works. So the Steelers, they could be in a slump. They might not make the postseason the next year, the next 2 years, next 3 years, maybe even 5. But I can tell you one thing, they'll always be competitive. They will never be truly bad. This football team is not designed to be truly bad. Their coaching won't let them be truly bad. And let me tell you, Ben Roethlisberger, he's been my quarterback since I first started watching this team. And to see him go down the field after what he did on Monday night was nothing short of spectacular. That was nothing short of poetic. I can understand why some people might think the league is scripted at this point. That is poetic. The Jaguars got the win, the worst team in the league in terms of what their draft pick is going to be, number 1 overall. The Steelers beat the Browns at home, which isn't that surprising. But then they went on the road, and in overtime, my quarterback got the ball. He threw it, and he got it on 4th and 8 on so many third downs. This man converted, and he showed that he's going to play another game. My quarterback's going to play another game. He's not done. He's not finished. Ben Roethlisberger has another week. I don't care how he looks. The fact that this man gets another week is just a testimony to how amazing he is as a player, to his heart and his passion and his talent, that he still has that talent that hasn't quite faded away yet, because there is still some there, obviously. Ben Roethlisberger, I understand the media saying that this is likely going to be his last game, because he should have said that, because we can't just say, oh, they're going to make the playoffs. We can't assume that, right? We have to see how things play out. So I took this as Ben Roethlisberger's final game, and I did get updates on the Jaguars game, but overall, if Steelers missed the playoffs, I wouldn't have been too concerned, simply because I just wanted to appreciate this as Ben Roethlisberger's potential last game. But the media, and like I said, it's okay that they said that could be the case, because the odds were in that favor. But it was almost as if they assumed the Jaguars and Colts game had already been played and the Colts had won. But let me tell you something. Ben Roethlisberger did what he had to do. Even if the Colts won, I'd be so proud of this man because he did what he had to do. And this quarterback who was supposed to be gone today, there is supposed to be tears of sadness whether we won or lost. These are tears of joy because I get to see him play one more time. I don't care the result. The fact that this man did this is one of the greatest finishes to a career in NFL history. And you have to appreciate it. Benjamin Roethlisberger, the quarterback out of Miami, Ohio, in his 18th year, is leading a Pittsburgh Steelers team, depleted, a Pittsburgh Steelers team that has looked so bad on some occasions. A Pittsburgh Steelers team that has been so close to some victories, but choked it away. And a Pittsburgh Steelers team that was trashed by the media, that was trashed by all these other fans' teams. He showed up, and he beat them, and he did what he had to do, and we're in the postseason. Let's freaking go!